about we talk about arms? Not just arm exercises, but let's talk about how we get sleeveless without risking injury to something else. I'm Debra Atkinson. I'm the founder of Flipping 50. It's the home of the first and the only exclusively made for menopause fitness membership in the world. And you know, if you're here, you've been here for a minute, that arm exercises are among some of the most popular videos requested. All right, so there's a lot of great ones here. And there's a risk. So today we're going to talk about how you avoid risk of injury and decide which option or is a modification best for you. Are you ready? Let's start with this. The second wave goodbye, your triceps in the back. Second, we're going to go to the biceps. And let me show you super simple exercises that can go really wrong. Let's stop that right now. Here we go. So to demonstrate one of my favorite exercises, and this is one of those that can go wrong, it's an overhead tricep press. So the weights come down right behind the shoulder blades and then go straight up. Now, number one, here's what I'm doing. So I've got two dumbbells here. Neither one of them by themselves. These are about 10 pounds. That's irrelevant. My weight is not your weight. Find the weight that works for you. But either one of them, that's not going to work. I don't have another pair of dumbbells. That is enough. So I'm going to take those and cross those. You might have sets of 5 pounds, 8 pounds, 10 pounds, 15 pounds, and you might use a 10 pound and a 5 pound. You might use an 8 pound and a 10 pound. So you can mix and mash things up as you need to find the right way. But let me show you. Here's the exercise. Now let's talk details, okay? So I'm going to turn to the side in a minute, but from here, from the front, I want you to realize that this is where I'd like you to be. Arms in. My upper arm close to my ears. Elbows pointed at the ceiling. Those weights going right between my shoulder blades. I'll show you that in a second. And then tipping right here. Nothing else is moving. But here's what you're maybe not paying attention to. Want you to make sure that you see a little window behind me. You can see space between right here and right here going all the way through. So if I'm lifting my weight up and my shoulders are also coming up, I'm actually doing harm and not doing as much good. So you're working your triceps. They cross your shoulder and they cross your elbow. However, you're also hiking up these upper trapezius muscles, and those upper traps actually hike up quite a lot, significantly for females. We also then get tension in the neck. So if you're prone to headaches, to migraines, or just to muscle tension and strain here, and you're always dying for a back rub, it's probably partially that you're more likely to do that whenever you're lifting overhead and maybe lifting at all. So you want to be cautious of trying to drop those shoulders down. We call that depression. So depress your shoulders. Don't elevate them. So what I want you to do is when you come up, you should be able to go through this range of motion without these hiking up. So that's number one, but watch the other thing. So as soon as I go up here, the tendency is to tip my head forward. I'm going to turn to the side. So you know what's happening. Elbows in, not out, okay? In, not out. You may have to lift a lighter weight. If you go out here, you probably lift heavier, but you're not actually focusing as much on the triceps. You're actually putting some stress on those shoulders. Let's bring it in, make it specific, and lighten the load if you need to. All you want to do is get to fatigue. When you turn to the side, here's the view you can see. As soon as I come up, I tend to want to do this. You have to consciously think about keeping that head upright. I always try to watch something eye level across the room or across the gym, no matter what it is. Your focus here at your eye level, so you're not looking down, not at the floor. You're lifting and looking up, and it will feel better for your neck. But here's the real problem. So when you're standing to do this exercise, and it probably feels easy to do that because you go over, you pick up your weights, and you just say, well, I'm just gonna do this one. And so we go right into the doing, but there's a lot going on here. that is beyond my elbows staying in and my shoulders staying down. There's several other things to think about. So I want you to think about when I'm here standing, I have my knees, my hips, and my entire spinal column in addition to the working muscles to think about. We've already talked about the elbows have to be in and the head back, right? And the shoulders down. We've got a lot of details. So if you find that you can't come back without arching through the back, then I want you to try to focus a couple of times with me. And if not, you're going to sit down and I'll demonstrate how much easier that is. But as you come back and you're pushing here, here's what I'd like you to think. No weights in my hands, none in yours. Take your fingertips, put your fingers on the front of your hip. That's your anterior iliac crest, but just on the front of your hip. And in the back, find your pelvis, the top of your hip bone. There's a little softer space between your hip, top of your hip and your rib cage. Find that top of your hip. Put your thumbs there. Finger on the front, thumbs on the back, and ideally that is parallel. So it's like a glass of water. You're sitting on the rim on the counter. You're not tipping it out in the front and you're not dumping it out the back. So when people prepare for an exercise in a standing position, sometimes you'll see them either going back and forth between these two places, back and back and push, really swinging because they're potentially have too heavy a weight. And the opposite is maybe they're pressing so very much, they're just overemphasizing. We don't want to lock that down. We just want neutral. So in order to do that, you want to make sure you keep your knees unlocked. And that just means not hyperextended. If you know you do this sometimes when you stand very easily, I'm among those people, you want to make sure you unlock, soften those up. That'll make you pay more attention to putting this in neutral. And then take your arms up. And in this position, nothing should change here. So I'm not arching, and that's the temptation. As soon as we bring the arms up, we have a really long lever above your core. If we add weight to that, we make it harder even to keep this still. So you're demonstrating a level of core strength, which is fantastic. It's a little core exercise, and all strength training, if you're using dumbbells, free weights, is core work. So we want to make sure we do it well, right? This is better than anything you'll ever do, lying on your back. Hold right here. You're going to bend. You're going to push. And you're going to watch for that stability. If you can watch yourself in the mirror, so much better. So you can actually see you're doing the exercise. Elbows in, head back, shoulders down, weight on your heels, slight bend of your knees. The spine stays still, and you only go until you can maintain all those pieces. Okay, and you're just starting out. You don't need to give yourself all those things to think about. In fact, lighten your load up a little bit. Have a seat. So now I don't have to think about my knees being flexed a little bit, or my hips tipping under, or being in neutral. You want to maintain a neutral even while you're sitting, but it's a little harder to do it poorly while you're sitting. So you can bring the arm up, keep the elbows in, shoulders down, head back, and then right between those shoulder blades. Now right now I'm lifting half the weight I was. It's a lot easier to have really good form. So know that sometimes if you feel like I just can't do that, try a lighter weight. Learn how to do it really well with excellent technique before you go really heavy. Okay, next up, if we're going to work the back of the arm, we want to work the biceps, right? So you just want to see that little bit of a pop, right? So what does that look like? Well, same thing. A lot of times we'll just come over, we'll pick up the weights, and then we'll say, well, I'll just do that standing, right? Why would I sit down for such a small muscle group? But again, we tend to see arching back because we're here, and unless I'm really focused, I'm going to probably lean back with the weight, right? So, not exaggerating. Here's what good form looks like. Slight bend of the knees. Remember, I'm back in neutral, thinking about the front of my hip and the back of my hip in the same line. Elbows in close, shoulders down, and then I'm pulling in. You can do a bicep curl with the palm up, or you can do it with your palms in, or you can rotate as you come up. So bringing it to neutral, and then palm lifted upward. So lots of variations on that. If I were doing it, I'm always going to do two at once. I don't have the kind of time to do a single and then another, and I'm not going to stand on stage in order to develop my muscles and stand for a few minutes posing. That's not why I'm doing it. I'm doing it so that it's stronger when I'm doing the yard work. I'm stronger when I'm hitting that golf ball, stronger when I'm picking up dog food, all of those things. So you decide what works for you. Similarly, sitting down. So dropping your tailbone down, slide your legs way off of a bench or a chair, and elbows in close to your sides. Drop those arms down and do it here. And again, less likely to arch your back because there's a lot less to think about. This is a really short lever, and it's not even up and overhead, but we can really easily get into swinging. So watch yourself in the mirror. You want to make sure that's not happening. And you want to make sure that you're pulling your shoulder blades back and dropping them down again, so you're not curling and crunching in here. We want to keep that shoulder, anterior shoulder muscle, and your chest broad and open, because we're all over keyboards. We're all texting, creating dinner, and creating recipes, right? Life is out front. So posture is really important. It's part of the work. As you focus on small muscle groups, focus on posture. If you don't have mirrors in your home gym, next step, right? Okay, now, that was two. I promised biceps and triceps both, but I also want to go into, because we're talking small muscle groups, we often just take this for granted, that I want to show you or demonstrate shoulders. So I'm just going to do a couple exercises that are lateral raises. So lifting up here, so if you want to see a little shoulder lift and tone, you're going to do shoulder exercises. But here's the caveat. Again, standing up, what's happening? If we have a weight at the end of our arm, it's a long ways away, as opposed to shorter, right? So we're at more risk. So what you think, the further away it gets from your center, go lighter. So instead of this weight as a 10, I might actually do an 8 or a 5 and see, can I do that with really good form first? Watch what happens when I try to use the same weight I just did with short lever. So if I'm lifting, I want to come up, I want to stop here and own it, and then slowly lower down. Now, truth be told, I'm going to get about 3 of these, and they may not even all be good, because that is really heavy, right? Because now it's a long lever, so I may want to cut that weight in half just to see what my form is. But because, again, it's a long lever, I'm going to cheat and tend to do that. So it's got to be soft knees. It's got to be tuck the tailbone just slightly so I'm in neutral. And if I can't, pause right here and then lower that down without straining and lifting those shoulders up as I do it. The weight is too heavy for the work and the result that you want. So you're going to go a little bit lighter, practicing with really good form with nothing in your hands. Memorize what that should look like when you're looking in a mirror. Pick up weights and make sure nothing changes. You're not doing this. You're not doing this. It's a great test. But here's the alternative. You're going to be a little bit stronger here because you don't have to think about this, and you'll be less likely to arch the back. So those of you who have lower back issues, that is especially for you, but also those of you that have shoulder issues, go lighter before you're even close to going heavier. Err on the conservative side. If you think maybe I can do 8 or 10, pick up 5s first and go through it, and you'll be far happier. So there you have it. So we did a little tricep exercise, one of my faves. We did bicep exercises, just demonstrating how to do that safely, standing or seated, and then we did standing or seated lateral raises. And when you combine the back of the arm, the front of the arm, and the shoulder, now you really get talking about great definition. Just keep these lighter. And if you have questions, drop them below. I'll see you on the flip side.